fine.
Okay.
All right, great. Looks like it's going. All right. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank everybody for joining us. I know you're all joining us on short notice, but I know that you've all been made aware of the fact that we've been working with Shore Clinical over the past several weeks to really drive forward some great new enhancements in CTMS. And we are about to launch those enhancements. We are continuing our testing currently, but the goal is really to roll these enhancements out to each of the teams that are currently working in CTMS in the month of July, as well as really get new CTMS studies started with these new features. Now, some of the features are items that have been available, that are available currently, but we've really, you'll see in the presentation today that we've really enhanced quite a bit of the features in terms of things like protocol deviations and action items, monitoring visit events. But what we're also adding new in is the ability to complete monitoring visit trip reports in the system, which we hadn't been able to do previously, and to be able to link things like protocol deviations and action items from visits to those trip reports. So looking to streamline some of the effort to minimize some duplicate work that you may have experienced in the past. And then with that, we're also developing some of our monitoring visit reporting metrics, time from when the visit occurs to the time in which we can get the trip report finalized. So I'm hoping that you'll appreciate some of the new features. And again, this is a high-level overview. There will be some more intensive training in the coming weeks on each of these features so that you can really get into the systems and start using them. So with that, I'll turn it over to Lori and Anurag to kick off the training.
Great, thank you. So yeah, thanks Patrick, and thanks everyone, and thanks to your subject matter experts and who have already been testing. We really appreciate your feedback. This was a very accelerated mini release, for us and too, but we're excited to be able to roll these out, as you say, for both for CTMS and in particular your monitoring experience on that. So we're going to go through a bunch of updates on that. So a little bit of housekeeping. I saw a couple of you raised your hand. I'm going to put your hands down if you don't mind. But because we have right now 58 participants on the call, we want to record it because there's a lot of information we're going over and some people are gone for the holiday. So if you have a question, please post it to the Q&A and we will get to it. We can even stay a few minutes after if we need to, and we can let other people drop off if they want to. But use the Q&A and we'll get to them. I'll monitor those and we'll go from there. So thank you. So sort of quick overview. This is kind of your automation, release or mini release. So a lot of, especially the monitoring activities, are currently very manual. You have lots and lots of documents, trip reports, etc., where you print, scan, upload, manually tag. I think you guys know the problems that can arise from it, especially duplicate data entry, some quality issues with that. And then you can't really measure what you've put into that report, which is a key driver for precision for you to go to a lot more automation. So this is your new solution. You can automate the monitor visit report lifecycle. You've got these forms you can manage, track with dashboards. There's a lot of predictive cycle times. So we think it's going to give you guys a lot of benefits too. So what you're doing now, and Patrick and Becky and Mary and everyone can roll this out, internally, what it means in terms of change management, but your processes aren't changing so much. If you like a form, you can use it, but how we are capturing and reporting on those and automating a lot of that, and Anurag is going to show you that in particular with your forms, and too, that these are database driven, so it should improve your quality and definitely your metrics. So Here's what's really changing, and Patrick, you will probably use this later on, I suspect. So what your tasks aren't really changing. You schedule a monitor visit activity. Currently, you just use your calendar. You will now create it in CTMS. Your visit, you will either do just as you do on-site or remote. Your document, your protocol deviations, you will now capture fully in CTMS, and you'll see why, and you can report on those. And your action items too, you will capture in CTMS. So, and then we'll go through the reports and the approvals, and I think almost everybody here is pretty familiar probably with signing, you know, and our workflows. So this is a high-level summary of what's due. So your tasks don't change too much, but how you're doing them does. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing and turn it over to Anurag and kind of get to the details.
All right. Thanks, Lori and Patrick. Hi, everyone. This is Anurag from Sure Clinical. I'm a solutions consultant, and like Lori and Patrick mentioned, I'll be giving you a high-level overview on monitor visit events and activities, on action items that arise from those monitor visit activities, protocol deviations, as well as the various severities, right? Minor, critical, major. And then we'll wrap up the demonstration today by showing you the new eMVR process where you're automating and the entire life cycle of that monitor visit report. So the way we have it structured today is we'll go through a few slides, about 10 or 20, on how to, kind of a step-by-step guide that you can then use later on when you do start your training on the software. And then the second half of this presentation today will be a live demonstration in the actual system. So the first thing that you're going to do when you get into Sure CTMS is you're going to go in the Manage tab. Under the Activities module, we have this new activity dashboard, or this activity view. It pretty much just categorizes various different types of activities for you with a few nice visualizations. So we have some pie charts around which monitor visits have been scheduled, completed, canceled, which action items are open or closed, and other activities. Each one of the pie charts and the metrics that you see on the top here, you can click on each one of them to filter with that specific type of activity. So if you click on monitor visits, it's only going to show you the monitor visit activity types. To the right, we also, this little gear icon right here, this is what you can use to toggle between your personal activities and then your project activities. So if you go on your dashboard and you don't see your entire team's activities or monitor visits or action items, use that toggle switch to switch between your personal activities that you've entered versus your team's activities if you do need to check something out regarding their inputted activities. So the first thing we're going to do in the system today is create a new monitor visit activity event. We're going to go to the we're going to go to the Manage tab. We're going to click on either the Activities module or the Monitor Visit Activities under the Monitoring module, and either one of them will still get you to that activity view. With that view, you're going to click a blue plus icon to create a new type of activity, and with that, you can simply specify what type of activity is it. Is it a subject visit? Is it a monitor visit? Is it an action item? Is it a to-do task? Is it a phone call, a meeting, etc. Right? So you have all these various types that you can use to create a new activity. Once you have specified what type you want, depending on which type you select for the activity, those fields are going to get activated based on your decision. So if it's a monitor visit, then you'll see, okay, what kind of visit type is it? Is it a PSV? Is it a IMV? Is it an SIV? Or is it a closeout or other visit? And you'll be able to specify that in there. You'll be able to pick your monitors, your site attendees, if you have any. You'll be able to attach documents to that monitor visit if you want to. These documents can come directly from your Sure CTMS or your archive. You will then schedule the monitor visit, see, if you want is it a 2-day activity, is it a 1-day but all-day event, is it only just an hour that you're on site? You can specify that in the schedule. And then you can assign those monitors, right, that I talked about for each specific site, or if it's If you have any other site visit attendees or guests that will be joining you with that monitor visit event, you'll be able to specify those here. And then once you're done with completing and creating all the required fields and inputting them, just go ahead and hit create, this little blue button down here, and that's going to go ahead and create that monitor visit event for you. On top of that, it's also very neat that it automatically gets linked to your milestone. So if you had a milestone, let's say a pre-study visit milestone in your project milestone manager for CTMS, and then you go ahead and create a new pre-study visit activity event here that I'm showing you, a milestone will be automatically linked to this monitor visit event, and when this event or activity gets completed, the milestone will update in real time in front of you. So that's the whole approach that we're taking to make your life easier as the power users, right? We want to make sure that the system is efficient, it's automating some of those processes, and reduce the manual effort for you guys. After you create the monitor visit event, you'll then want to make sure that you're able to track it, you're able to report on it, you're able to configure any metadata reports in the system. I suspect that most of you guys are familiar with the Sure CTMS system, right? And by that I mean you've gone ahead and created maybe activities, or you've maybe created some reports, maybe you've configured the reports with the metadata. That is consistent across various different types, right? Whether that be a monitor visit event, you can run reports for that. Whether that be an action item, you can run reports for that and customize it. So in order to do that, you can go ahead and go back to the Manage tab and the Activities section. You can filter by a specific visit. So for this example, our monitor visit. And then in the top right, there's going to be a three-dot menu that you can generate a report with. There's also a filter icon that if you want to filter by a specific type of activity, or for a specific site, for a specific type of monitor visit, who is it assigned to based on a specific monitor or team member. That just helps you kind of filter that data and get down to what you're really looking for without having to go through, I don't know, 4 or 5 pages of activities, right? If you have a big study, if you have a lot of visits in there, a lot of action items, it might be easier to filter it to really save yourself some time and make it a little bit more efficient for yourself. So after you click on this three-dot menu, and you say, okay, I want to generate a report, that is going to take you to a configuration part where this is now where you'll be able to use this metadata-driven system. You're probably going to hear me say that a few times throughout this demo and training today. As long as you have your metadata set up correctly, so for example, your sites, your statuses, that makes your entire system searchable, sortable, filterable, and reportable, right? And ultimately also auditable if it needs to be. So here you can just go ahead and customize that report based on the metadata that you want. So for example, if I only want to see the monitor visits for site 10, or if I only wanted to see the monitor visits with the status incomplete, or a specific type. Whichever tag you add onto this report configuration manager, that is the data that you'll be able to filter in real time really, really quickly. Of course, when you run the report, it's going to show up as a PDF. There's also going to be a CSV in the document details as an attachment. You can also go into this format area and under here specify that, hey, you don't want the system to convert that report into a PDF, so then it'll just save it for you as a CSV. So it's a flexible system on however your internal processes require you for the formats. And of course, when you're done configuration, just go ahead and click generate, and the system will now give you an option to store that report that you just configured as a user template. Again, some of these reports, it's really a quick configuration, but for larger studies, it might take you a few minutes. Just go ahead and save yourself that few minutes and save it as a user template that you can just easily create next time. So the next thing is we now have our monitor visit activity event. We've created that, and now we need to log some action items that may arise from that monitor visit event. The process is going to be similar. You're going to go to your Manage tab, and then under the Manage tab, there's going to be a new Action Items section under the activities module. And with that, you can just go ahead and click a new, the plus icon in the bottom right. It's pretty consistent throughout all of these processes, makes it a little bit easier for you to train. And then you can just go ahead and click that to create a new action item. So with that, again, pretty standard, right? Fill up all the fields, site, you can associate it with the monitor visit activity, descriptions, and then your schedules, and then of course, the users that you want to assign that to. After you're done, just hit create, and you're done. You have now created that action item, and you have associated it with a specific monitor visit event. Similarly, once you have those action items and you have a ton of them, it's really vital for you to be able to filter based on a specific type or based on a specific tag, and ultimately report on those, right? So with that, you're going to go back to the Manage tab and into the Action Items section under that Activities module. And then here, you have the exact same view that you had with the Monitor Visit events. So that's what I mean with the consistency that we're trying to improvise with the software that just makes it easier for you to train. So here, we have now our filters at the top right. You can just go through and you can say, okay, I want to see, you know, the type action item activity, and I want to only see the action items in the system or in your study. You can also use the toggle switch, like I told you, to see between your action items and your team's action items. And then, of course, you can use this three-dot menu to quickly generate reports. You can create a report based on all the open action items or all the closed action items, and then you can also just create a all action items report that you will then be able to customize with the metadata like we just talked about with the monitor visit events. So again, you can filter it based on, you know, if it's open closed action items, or if it's related or associated with a specific monitor visit or a specific site or a specific action item type. You can also create custom action item types, and then of course you can save them as user templates for the reports when you click generate.
So before we go on, let me just remind you guys, we have Q&A. Nick's answering some questions live. If you do have a question, post it to it. If your name does not show up, let us know who you are in case we run out of time, and either Patrick or Anurag, Nick, or I will get back to you. Thanks.
Absolutely, and then we should have a few minutes for Q&A
so,
at the end. Yeah. All right, and then for the protocol deviations, it's very similar. Right now, we have created the monitor visit event, and now we want to create protocol deviations that may arise from that visit. So you go into the Manage tab under Protocol Deviations module. You can click on the plus button again, and here you can just go ahead and add the required fields and press Create. Now, there are three different types of protocol deviations. There is a minor severity protocol deviation, there is a major severity, and then there is a critical. If you notice here on the screenshot, and we'll take a look at the system in just a few minutes, but you see that there are some fields that are red. These red fields indicate that this is a required item for you to input or create that protocol deviation. So for example, it makes sense that if you're creating a protocol deviation, you probably want to make sure that you add what site is it associated with, who's the PI for that site, and who's the monitor, right? So for minor, the fields that are going to be quote unquote required are very minimal. There's only 3 fields. If you create a major protocol deviation, you'll have those, you know, the underlying fundamental set of 3 or 4 required items, but then to the right, you will notice that there are the medical review and the reviewer comments that will be orange. Again, the red fields are required fields. You absolutely have to enter those in order to create the protocol deviation. The orange fields are kind of recommended fields, right? This was something that we designed together in feedback with Patrick and Mary and others. And when you have your major and critical deviations, it might be nice to input, you know, when was the medical review, what was the date, what was the reviewer's comments, etc. So just note that depending on which type of protocol deviation you're creating, the information you might have to input may vary. And like I said, critical as well, you have some orange fields here. They're just recommended or suggested, and you do not have to absolutely input those to create a protocol deviation.
Right.
But the ones in red, you absolutely have to.
Well, the system won't enforce it. Your business
Correct.
processes may, and that's up to you guys.
And that's a great point. Yep. Depends on your internal processes. All right, so now we've created our protocol deviations. We might have, I don't know, one for each severity. After you have those, you want to make sure you're tracking and reporting them, just like the monitor visit events and the action items. Again, go back to the Manage tab, click on Protocol Deviations under the Protocol module, and here you'll be able to have a full set of filters and metadata that you can filter the protocol deviations with at your disposal. So you can filter by a specific code. I know that when we did some webinars the last few months regarding the whole COVID-19 FDA guidance that was released around March, FDA mentioned that you really should be documenting every single thing, right? And part of that process is that you're documenting the protocol deviations. So if you're, for example, your study subject misses any visits due to the COVID-19 restrictions, you can actually go and create new codes or talk to your admin who might be able to help you create those codes. And then you can filter the entire protocol deviations based on that code. You can filter based on a specific site or a subject visit, monitor visit, and of course you have your severities and status, right? Which protocol deviations are open, which protocol deviations are closed. Are there any potential protocol deviations? Since the system is a smart system, it might have those for you. You can just filter through those really quickly and easily. You can click on right next to the protocol deviations. To the right, there's the three-dot menu. Again, it's fairly consistent across the system, so if you don't know what to do, just when in doubt, use the three-dot menu, right? You can generate reports from it. There's always extra actions that you'll need, you might have in there. And when you generate the report, we're going to end up with the same metadata configuration like we saw with the monitor visit events and the action items. So you can filter the report based on specific subjects and codes and severities, or if it's checked by someone, unchecked by someone, and various statuses. Of course, as always, you can go ahead and save the report that you customize as a user template, right? Or you can use the subscription manager for the report and subscribe yourself or your team members, managers, whoever it may be, to those reports, and then that, again, helps you kind of automate and make it more efficient of a process where the system would then automatically email you a freshly generated copy of that report based on your subscription settings. So then the manual effort is reduced drastically. Last but not the least, the main topic of today, right, the eMVR process. This is what Lori was just mentioning. With the old approach, there was a lot of manual factors in it. There was a lot of manual processes like print, scan, upload, right, tag. This process that we're showing you today is going to help you automate that entire life cycle. It's going to help you create those workflows automatically, manage them correctly, and help you track them with and predict them with cycle times and KPIs and milestone managers. So the first thing that you might ask is where are my forms? They're actually, and this is not something that the end users should concern with. This is mainly for the admins on where they can store those project files and have these forms and templates. But for each visit type, there's going to be default forms and letters and templates that'll be used for that, right? So for a pre-study visit report, confirmation letter, and follow-up letter, there's going to be 3 templates that are going to be default. Each section or each type of monitor visit is going to have its own default forms. We have taken the forms that you had in Word, we have converted them into online PDF fillable forms. It also has this cover letter that you see on the side, and we'll show you that in just a minute. it actually pulls the data directly from CTMS. That's what Lori was talking earlier. It's fully database driven, right? So again, the whole point of this is to make your life a little bit easier, automate this process for you, and help you manage and track it better. So in order to create an eMVR workflow, the absolute first thing is you need a monitor visit event, right? You need to have that visit activity created in the system, whether that's a completed activity or not completed, that does not matter. As long as you have the monitor visit activity, within that, you will have an activity plan. You'll see kind of a monitor visit report for it, a confirmation letter, a follow-up letter, and then you'll see this green start button that's gonna have like a pulsing animation right next to it. So it's really hard to miss. But within that activity plan, all you need to do is click start, and then you're gonna be brought to launching this workflow right here that you see, where it automatically fills in the site, the monitor visit. It automatically fills in the monitors and reviewers and approvers. So of course, monitors self-explanatory, but the reviewer and approver are gonna be your managers. This is the information it pulls from the site details page, from the actual site page where you specify where you see the enrollment and other things about that site. You will see a place where you can input the monitor as well as the managers for that specific site. And then that data just gets pulled automatically. We also have some new features here where you can include report blocks. I know it's kind of a tricky topic, so I want to just spend a minute here. All report blocks are actual reports. Most of you have created reports in the system, right? Where you create a PDF report and you kind of have that Sure Clinical Cloud watermark in it, right? Most of you guys, I hope, have created those. That's all these are. So we see our action items report, we see our protocol deviations report. These are reports that you can attach at the end of the final final monitor visit report form that gets sent out. So if you had any additional information, you can also add it in the form of addendums. Document addendums lets you pick a document that is already in your eTMF or your archive if you want to attach it to that form. Report addendum was exactly what I just described. I have a report of, I don't know, all the visits, it's a monitor visit report of all the, or if it's just a monitor visit activity report to see which monitor visits have been completed or not. If I want to attach that for a specific site, let's say it's a pre-study visit, you can, right? And of course, I'm just giving examples. You can use any other reports in the system and attach them as addendums to these forms. And then you have your local file addendums. You have a Word document on your desktop where you took extensive notes from your monitor visit activity that it's not in the CTMS or the eTMF. Well, just go ahead and attach that local file to this report if you want to kind of track it. And what happens is at the end of when the form is completed and everything is signed and reviewed and approved, those files will all get merged with this giant report that you will then be able to store in the appropriate folder in the eTMF. So all that data, you don't have to do any manual work of tracking and measuring and stuff like that. It just gets done for you in an efficient manner. So those are the optional items that I mentioned here. And then after you're done with inputting all of that, adding your documents and your addendums, just hit start workflow. And now the milestone that we saw earlier, right, with the monitor visit activity, I told you that it automatically gets linked with that milestone. But now what it's going to do is it's going to add this workflow, this eMVR workflow, automatically to that milestone as well. So when you complete it in real time, it just gets dynamically updated in front of you on the dashboard. So once you're done sending out the workflow, you now launched it. You will now receive a task notification if you're the monitor. You will see kind of a pending task like this in the notification section where there is a new MVR task for you. You go ahead and click on that, and then you come to this form. You see that there's a bunch of this information already filled out from the CTMS. And then you can just fill it out, the entire form. If you can't finish it, you can hit save the progress for when you come back later. If it's a wrong form, obviously it might not be realistic for you to complete 40 pages in one sitting, right? So you can just hit the save button. And then if you're done, just hit submit. And the form will then go to the reviewer to review, where now the reviewer has an option to either accept or reject that form and the data that you have. And if they reject it, then it gets sent back to you. They also have the option to add sticky notes, to add comments on it. If you missed anything when you were filling out the form, they can let you know that. After it's done reviewed, and if they accept it, it then comes back to you to sign, right? You, as the monitor, you want to sign the document using your digital ID PIN, and then after you're done signing it, it will now get sent automatically back to the approver to sign and finalize. The monitor visit report is then saved, tagged, and stored in the appropriate folder in the eTMF. So the entire process was fully automated. It was directly in the system where you filled out the form, and then now your milestone gets updated in real time in front of you. So with that, let's get into the live demo. All right, going into my Sure CTMS. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do now is we're going to go in and we're going to create a new monitor visit activity. We're going to go into the Manage tab in the Activities section, and we can just filter by monitor visit. This is the activity dashboard that I talked about here. You can just quickly filter through the data that you want. If you want to toggle between your personal activities, your project activities, you can do that. This way you get visibility over the entire project. Depending on your role and permissions, you might not have this available to you. So just a heads up on that. Okay, so here are my monitor visits. Now I'm going to click the plus icon to create a new pre-study visit for my site 20. Here, let's pick Barry Bonds as RPI. It automatically added the monitor, which was myself, and my reviewer and approver, who is technically my manager in the site details, which is Nick. And then here, I think that's pretty much all I wanted to add in for this visit. If you notice here, it also added the right location and meeting modes automatically based on what the site name was. And then here we can just go ahead and add our start time, right? So it's about 9:30. That's fine. 10 to 11. That's okay with me. And then let's make sure that our site attendees are in. We can also associate documents here if you want to. And then let's go ahead and click create on the pre-study visit. So as soon as we create that, now if I click on this visit, we now see the activity plan, like I told you. We see the action items, the protocol deviations. But let's just keep this on pause and come back to it. If you notice here, the biggest thing is the project milestone was automatically linked to that activity that you just created. Now, like I said, as you complete these in real time, the milestone is going to update in real time. That's going to make your project phases update in real time. And it's just a big trickle-down effect that happens in real time for you to track everything correctly. So let's just take a brief pause here and go back to from the activity. Let's go back into our action items. So again, I'm in my activities module under action items. And here again, it's kind of the same activity view that we looked at earlier. I can see either my action items or the entire project's action items. And then here we can click the plus icon to create a new one. So here I want to say, okay, this one is for Centric, my site 20. The monitor visit activity I want to associate it with is the PSV that we just created, right? And then for this one is, I don't know, signature page missing in the description. And then you can also add priorities and displays. And the assigned user is myself. And then for this one, why don't we, that's fine. We set it to today for the schedule and hit create. Now what's going to happen is as soon as I created that 020 Clint-centric action item by associating it with that milestone, or excuse me, the visit PSV, it's gonna just automatically show up on that visit page that we were just at. But before we get to that, we can also filter here based on the activity types. So like I said, if you want to see all the monitor visits, or if you just wanted to see the action items, monitor visits, and meetings, if you wanted to filter by a specific site, only show me the events for my site 1 Center Farm, only show me the items that are assigned to myself. So it just helps you get to the data that you want really quickly, right? It just kind of helps you be a little bit more efficient. Similarly, now we can go back into our Manage tab and get into our protocol deviations. So here is my protocol module, and under protocol deviations, just like what we did for action items, let's go ahead and set up some for that visit. The first thing I want to do here is I can filter. I can use this filter option to only show me all the protocol deviations that are, let's see, open, or if the only ones that are closed, right? Because I don't really necessarily care about the ones that are potential deviations, but right now I just want to get to the data for those open and closed. Similarly, you can also add custom codes like I told you. You can also filter these protocol deviations by a specific site or a subject visit. You can also make it IRB reportable. You can also have, someone check it. So this is just a flag where someone inputs them, and then your monitor reviewer actually goes in and say, okay, there's been an action taken for this, or if this has been properly reported and documented, then they can go ahead and check it from unchecked. So there's just some various filters that are available for you to, again, try to get to that data in a timely manner. So let's go ahead here and let's create a new protocol deviation. So this can be a site deviation, that's fine. Deviation code is approvals not, that's fine. For a pre-study visit, for my site, I want to make it ClinCentric site. For my PI, that's fine. For my monitor, it automatically added myself. For the monitor visit, let's go associate it with that ClinCentric PSV that we just created. And then this was what I was talking about in terms of the severity. So right now, the severity minor, we added the site, the PI, the monitor. This information just got automatically filled. I didn't really have to do much. But if I take out any of these, then this is going to be a required item, right? Is going to be, you're not going to be able to create the protocol deviation without these 3 fields, which makes sense. The severity, if we switch it to major, these orange fields have now been enabled. Like I said, you can put in a specific date for a medical review, or you can add specific reviewer comments. Like Lori said, this is completely based on your internal business processes. So that's why it's orange and not red, because based on how your processes are, they might require you to input some of these things and not the other ones, right? So we leave that flexibility with you.
Anything underlined in orange is recommended, not required.
Yep. Similarly, if we switch the severity to critical, then those orange fields are enabled as well. Again, just to be clear, orange equals recommended. These are not required items. Red means recommended, right?
No,
or
red
required,
means,
or required, excuse me.
Yeah. The system will enforce it, yeah.
Right. Red will be enforced. So now let's just go ahead and create a major deviation for this PSV. And now I'm going to hit create, and there it is. Now the protocol deviation has been created, and we can go back into our activities, go into that PSV, and here we will now see the action item that we just added, the protocol deviations that we just added with the correct code. The approvals are not kept up to date. So again, it's all real time, and now you're able to just, when you create a monitor visit report workflow, you'll be able to just automatically add the action items and the protocol deviations in the form of a report. I know your old form, they had the action items at the bottom of the form and the protocol deviations, but now this is just automating that process for you. And you don't have to do duplicate data entry, right? You don't have to sit there and use a few minutes to add those in. So this is the activity plan now. It is activated for us. This is the pre-study visit. And, although it's not completed, we still would like to get the monitor visit report started, right? So let's go ahead and click this pulsing green start button. And from here, the system has just automatically added most of the fields that I needed to start this workflow. It added the right monitor visit name. It has a naming convention that it uses for these visits. So it automatically says, okay, site ID, site name, type of visit, and then the type of workflow, right? If it's a confirmation letter, it would say that, and then eMVR. If it's an IMV, what the system does is, since there's only one of PSVs, but there can be many, many IMVs, if you have an IMV1 or IMV2 and you try to create a new one, then it would just automatically name it IMV3. That is called the subtype of that visit. So just keep that in mind. The system does have a naming convention for it, but of course you can change it in here, right, if you need to stick to your own internal one. Here you have the option to notify users and initiators. At this point, I don't really want them to get emails with this, so I'm just going to uncheck them. You can include monitor visit summaries. I'll uncheck that as well. And then you can include the action items and the protocol deviations. So here's the action item that I just created, and now I can use it as a report addendum that is attached to the end of the form and the report. Similarly, we also have our protocol deviations. Approval is not kept to date. We just created that, and we can just add it directly to that form or report. Addendums, like I said, you have the ability to add document addendums, report addendums, or local file addendums. Let's just explore them one at a time. The document addendum will let you pick a document that is already in your eTMF and include it or merge it with this report. A report addendum is kind of like the action items and protocol deviations report, right? But all the reports that you've created, whether that be, I don't know, protocol deviations or project milestones or project updates or compliance reports or document reports, right, from the eTMF, you're able to just directly click on them and attach them or append them to the report and the form. And then last but not the least, we got the local file addendum, right? Here, it can take directly your local files. This is kind of the example that I used earlier, and it's really gonna be a case-by-case basis, but you might need to add some notes or some extra summaries that you have written down from that monitor visit, and now you really want to make sure that they're appended to the report. Just go ahead and click the file here, and the system will just automatically add it to the end of that report, like we just looked at. One very helpful tool here is, since some of these reports are pretty long, this PSV that I'm using is like 35 pages, and then you add an action items report to it, then you add a protocol deviation.
The system does, you don't.
Right. No, I'm saying when they get attached, my point is
they're very long.
They're very long, right? So you want to make sure that the data that you added to it or the system adds, it all shows up correctly. You want to make sure that everything looks good before you start the workflow, so that you don't have to come back later or delete the workflow in case something doesn't get added or whatever the case might be, right? So my point is save yourself the hassle and preview that form directly in the preview icon before you send out the workflow. Here you can test out little things like, hey, the logo kind of showing up here, is the site details and the visit details and this entire front page being populated correctly from the Sure CTMS. My visit intent correct, right? So all of these things, just on the first page, by the way, the cover page, these are things that are being populated from the CTMS. So you can test those out and make sure they're all good. So here's your form for the PSV. Like we just said, 34 pages. And then at the end of it, you'll have this is your action items report, and then this is your protocol deviations report. So this is just a quick way to make sure that everything is generated properly. And the monitors are added correctly, the reviewers, approvers are good. Now we can just go ahead and start the workflow. As soon as we start the workflow, Now, I'm going to get a notification here saying, hey, you have a new task to complete and fill out this report. The project milestone is also going to be automatically linked to that monitor visit report workflow that we just created. You'll see which ones are active, which ones are completed, and then these will all be tracked in real time with those milestones. So let's go ahead and click on our task. Now I'm gonna go ahead and just fill out a few things, right? If I want to, yes, 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 no, right, whatever your data is. And then since it's a long form, if I don't end up having the time to finish all of it in one sitting, what I can do now is I can just go ahead and hit save to save the form. So this is going to save all the data that you input, so that way next time you come in, you just go into your notification, click on this, and then it's going to pull up the same form with the data that you have inputted. So let's just say that now I'm done filling out the form. I'm going to go ahead and submit this. As soon as I submit it, it is now going to go to my reviewer, which is my manager in the site details, to go ahead and review it. They can accept, reject it, they can send comments back, and then I'll now pass the screen on to Nick, who will act as our reviewer and approver.
All right, awesome, thank you, Anurag. So again, we're going through this Clin-centric PSV monitor visit report here at the top. Going into it here, you can see that I've got a review task to complete. And up in my notifications, it hasn't quite loaded yet, so it might be in just a couple minutes. I would have a task up here in my pending tasks. Just to skip over that and to actually get into the review, I'm just going to go in through the actual workflow. Give it just 1 second here, it might just be loading. Let me do a quick refresh here.
Do a quick refresh.
And what happens here is I will go and I will see the completed form that I'm supposed to review. You can see that that form has been already deposited in this pretrial monitoring report where we specified. And I now have a task up here to complete and review this, this form. So I'm looking through it, it looks all good. I can click the review, and if it doesn't look good, I can actually reject this and I can enter in some comments. I can say, you know, the first page needs more detail, and I can actually add these comments as a sticky note. If I reject this and add these as a sticky note, it will be appended to the actual form itself and be sent back to Anurag to actually complete and make those changes within the system. Additionally, if you are making specific notes on like little tiny areas, you can click up here with this annotate button, and then you can click the sticky note to be able to add sticky notes or call the attention to the monitor who's actually completing this form. Hey, this didn't get filled out, or this needs more detail. And then you can reject that review, and it will go back to the monitor to complete that, that form again. So I'm going to go out of this, and I'm going to go back into my review task here. And I'm going to just go ahead and say that this is looking good, and I'm going to go ahead and approve this form. So what's going to happen next, it is going to say that the document has been reviewed, and looking at the workflow process, you'll see that the signed PDF will go back to Anurag again to have him sign that document. So I'm going to go ahead and stop my sharing and let Anurag get that signing done.
Awesome, thanks, Nick. So here, I have the next task now to sign the document. If I click on it, the familiar signing dialog pops up, right? We can just click on the green sign button. If you notice, the first page is a system databaseable form where it, like I said, it pulls a lot of data from Sure CTMS. So automatically it noticed that, okay, since I was the monitor on the site, I am the CRA, and this is where I need to sign. It also created a spot for Nick's signature, who's the clinical lead on this project automatically. These are all the settings that you would set in the site that will then trickle down to your report. So I'm just going to put in my digital ID PIN. I'm assuming most of you guys are familiar with our Sure eSign product and have been using it. So you probably have a digital ID PIN that you've already set up for if it's an external person, then they would just get a verification code in their email where they would be able to sign as well. So now I have signed it, and now it's going to go back to Nick for the last approval.
All right. So doing a quick refresh here, we're going to refresh the system, and I should get another task to actually sign the document. Again, in my bell icon in the top right, I now have a pending task. It's just like Honorogs to sign the document. Again, making sure that I'm approving this document. Clicking the sign button, I'm able to enter in my digital PIN and then click sign. And that will put my signature on the document and append that, and it is now completed. So it will be stored within the eTMF, and the workflow process is complete. One thing to notice about this workflow process, again, as Anurag mentioned earlier, it is attached to this project milestone. You can see that it has gone from 50% to 75 when we completed this task. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing, and Anurag, you can take a quick look at that.
Yeah, so now I'm back in my CTMS. Let's just go back to that Manage tab. The eMVR process is completed. Like we said, now it's auto tagged, classified, and stored away safely in your Sure eTMF and where it's actually supposed to go. So now you don't have to do the manual tagging and classification. So here, let's just take a quick look at this monitor visit that we just completed the milestone, or the workflow for. It updated in real time. It now has a different status. Now I'm going to go ahead and complete this visit. All okay. Let's go ahead and complete it. Now, as soon as I do that, my point is we will then go back to our milestone manager here and look at this. This pre-study visit that Nick just showed you was at 75%. Now it is 4 out of 4 complete in real time in front of us. So this was the PSV that we just created, the PSV eMVR that Nick and I completed, and these will all be tracked automatically for you. So with that, I'd like to wrap up this training and demonstration. I know that Lori and Patrick might have a few comments, so I will pass it back to them.
Or just leave it up for a second.
Yeah.
So if you've got questions, again, so thank you, Nick. We'll send all the Q&A out. We can go over a couple of them too. We might have a few minutes, but if you've wanted to kind of wrap with this slide about who you need to talk to within Precision, you probably know all of these people, right? So Patrick, Mary, Nanette, John Shea, Odie, depending on us, and depending on what your question is, and we are everybody here on this call, Venture Clinical, we're part of your customer success team. Oh, sorry, I can't drive.
Oh.
Next slide, please.
There you go.
Okay, so this is the thing you should look at. If you need help, right, your tier 1 support, if you are a Sure Clinical user at Precision, you go to sureclinical@precisionformedicine.com. You can also look where the mouse is. It shows where your help desk from the app. That will send an email straight to sureclinical@precisionformedicine.com. Okay, so you want to talk to your internal help desk for kind of your common questions, either business processes or common access questions, right? Or if you found a bug, somebody there who is your subject matter expert will review it, make sure it really is a bug, and then get with us. If you need help, oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Lori. I was
Okay.
just gonna add. This is for many of our Precision team members are familiar with this email address. We are using it as a central location to manage all Sure Clinical related services. So we have a team of individuals who actually go into that that central email box, that support inbox, and regularly review the questions. You can certainly copy me on items, but we log these in and we make sure that we follow up with them. We have an organized manner in which we manage these. So I just want to point out that the Sure Clinical at Precision for Medicine inbox is really the best place to go to ensure that we track each of the questions that come in and make sure that we get back to you in a timely manner. So just please rely on that. I know you may have been using it primarily for eTMF services, but we've also been using it for CTMS services. I wanted to have one location for people to go to instead of having multiple emails for support.
Okay. And then we have, so any other questions? So I think, Mary, we might have to, because we don't have a report and workflow right now. I see one question. The question was about how you demonstrate how a reviewer sends comments in a report back. Hopefully Nick covered that. But we don't have a workflow open to share it with you right now, right?
Yeah, and Mary, we can definitely take this offline and we can go through that procedure with you. Again, the best way to do a lot of this stuff is to actually go into the preview environment and test this out. So you'll get a lot more information by actually doing it yourself and having that that kind of firsthand experience on what happens when I click reject instead of approve. How does that affect the workflow? Where does that document go? It should go back to the original monitor, but again, you'll need to just kind of test that out in the system to actually really get that firsthand experience so you can be a subject matter expert on these monitor visit reports.
All right, so hey, Mary, we saw you got it. So that was, I think it was over time, but I think that general advice that Nick is giving is for everybody. I mean, I don't know, most people learn by doing, right? So just go in. I know that either Patrick or Mary or anyone has probably given you assignments on what to test or how to get in there. So go ahead, have fun. It's going to be live in your system. It should be Sunday night, you know. And with that, any other questions? We actually have like 1 more minute. Good timing there.
Ooh.
So, nice job, Anurag.
Thank you.
Any other comments, Patrick?
I don't have any other comments except to say that, look out for some further communications from me as we launch the new system and move into it. As I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, we will be rolling out some training, some detailed trainings for all of our teams so that we can really have a focused look at each of these processes, and those are under development. And as I had mentioned, we are launching we're launching this system, and we're going to be getting everyone into it and working in these new features in July.
Right. All right, well, I'm going to stop.